A few moments later.
Welcome back to the Motor Mouse Garage channel, guys. So today what we're going to be working on, we've got some fuel issues as you guys saw in the intro. Basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing maintenance again for the fuel filter, so we're going to be replacing the fuel filter. And we're also going to be replacing the fuel filler neck, the rubber part of the hose, and I'll actually show you what I think is wrong with it. I actually don't know. There could be more leaks in the gas tank, but I suspect that it is the only portion that's wrong with the fueling system, because it only leaks whenever I fill up the gas tank. So I think it's leaking from the actual hose. So with that being said, let's get right into it and we'll show you what's going on. So what we've got this little fuel hose right here, and it's not in the best spot to get, but so I'll show you from my viewpoint what I'm looking at. So you can see this is the filler neck. Okay, so this is made out of metal, but we have right here, we've got this hose. And this hose, I felt over the top of it, and there's like a crack on the top of it. So what we're gonna have to do is remove these hose clamps. There's one here, and there's one that attaches to the tank on the other side, which I don't know if you can see, but probably not. So we might have to cut this off because this isn't flexible anymore. It's almost like plastic. It's hardened so much. So I'm gonna remove these clamps and then kind of try to get it out of here. If not, I might have to reach some type of like blade or something up here to cut it off, and then we'll get the new one on. So let's get going with that. Alright, so I've got my snap-on ratchet up here, and hopefully it'll make my life a little bit easier. I'm gonna move before I pull this up because I don't know if it's gonna leak fuel or not. It probably is. Most of the time they do. Ooh. Alright, get that pretty loose. And that clamp is out of my way, and dirt is in my mouth, so we know we're off to a good start. So the next one is a little bit above the tank, which I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it at all. Let's see, get this on here. Actually feels like this is a different size bolt, potentially. It's not a 10. Oh, never mind, it just wasn't on it correctly. This exhaust might be in my way because it needs to be pretty much up here. Let's see if I can snake this around here. Success. Got her loose. Now I just need to get my ratchet loose. Now I just need to get my socket loose. Shouldn't want to come loose on that one. There we go. We're going to move both of these hoses to where I can reach them off of this hose entirely, so I can get my socket back. There we go. So you can see that these clamps are pretty old. I'm going to get a drain pan because I don't know if any fuel is going to come out of this tank. And if it does, it's going to land right on me. But this hose is not flexible at all anymore. It's completely hardened. So I might have to cut this off. So I'm going to get a little X-Acto knife as well. Okay, so I don't exactly know how I'm going to cut this without leaking gasoline all over myself. Hopefully I don't. I might want to start from this end and basically just cut. So it seems like it wants to end right here. I'm sure there's probably an easier way to do this if I were to just remove this tube, but removing that tube is quite a bit of work. So my plan is to cut this open, since it's already junk anyway and I've got a new one. And then I can replace it with a more flexible tube. So we're going to make some cuts right here. Hopefully that's deep enough. Probably not. This is a pretty thick hose, so it might take a little work. Kind of split here. Need to increase that a little bit. Well, this is probably not the most advantageous for you guys to view this, but if you're replacing it, you might as well just cut it. Let's see how far we need to go to get it off this tube. And my hope is that the new one is flexible enough to snake back on here. Let me see if I can just kind of break it the rest of the way. Oh, you can see this side I've got open. This side is, oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. We're moving a little bit. Yeah, this hose is old. It's falling apart on me. So you can see, it doesn't look like the gas is coming out yet. So that's good. Now, how am I going to get it off of the gas tank side? That's going to be the interesting part. Might be able to cut that too. Let's just try to pull on it and see if we can snake it out of here. I don't think I'm going to have enough leverage to pull. Might have to cut her all the way. Well, maybe not. Let's give it a spin. Oh yeah. Yep, sure enough. I think that was my problem when I was filling up gas. This, I didn't cut this, so the only part I cut was this other side here, but you can see the top side, all cracked. All this is like plastic. It looks like oil was dripping on this for quite a while. So that's pretty much my problem. Interesting. So here's our new one, and you can see the difference. Let me take it out of this bag so you guys can see the difference in rigidity of the old one compared to the new one. So you can see right here, same tube. Look how flexible this guy is. This guy can bend, and this guy is rock solid. Like I'm gonna break this if I bend it. You can see there's a bunch of cracks on this other side. So, and conveniently, we have it marked as tank right here. So this side goes to the tank, this side goes to the filler neck. So I'm gonna snake this guy back on here. Hopefully you guys can kind of sort of see, but essentially, if you're trying to follow this as a tutorial, it's gonna go on the exact same way that it came off. Let me make sure it's facing the correct orientation. So I think it's gonna go like this, maybe? Yeah, I think we're gonna go up. Because the old one was facing like this, yeah. So it's gonna go in, this little bend is gonna be facing down. So it's gonna go in like this, because I cut this bottom portion, right? So we're gonna go plop, we're gonna plop that right back in. In a perfect world, that's what we're gonna do. I could lube it up. I might do that still. Well, let me get my clamps on here, because if I don't, I'm gonna have a very not fun time getting those back on. see if I can get it on here dry. Not gonna need that drain pan anymore. Oh yeah. Gonna slip right on here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just folding the hose over so I can get myself enough clearance to slide it back onto the actual filler tube. That way I can avoid taking a bunch of stuff off, because I don't know the integrity of this evap hose either on that's connected to it. So I don't want to disconnect it, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be pretty brittle after 30 plus years as well. So I'm trying to do this a cheating way, basically. And I don't know if it's working out for me just yet. There we go. Slowly sliding it on here. So, looks like I was able to cheat it just a little bit. Just enough to give us the room that we need. All right, so now just got to slide these clamps back into their original place. There's one. Make sure the other one by the tank gets back in its home. There we go. You want to make sure, you want to kind of like squeeze on this tube and make sure that the clamp is as so where the beginning of this tube actually starts, you're going to squeeze the hose and make sure that the clamp is on the correct side of that. Obviously you want it on this side more than you want it in the middle where it's not really clamping anything. So I'm going to reach up here and I'm going to tighten the hard one to get to, which is the one by the tank. I'm going to make sure that's all lined up. I'm going to get my 10 mil set up. I'm going to make sure my clamp is facing the direction I want it to be, which is pretty much you want the adjuster, little bolt, the 10 mil, to be on the bottom so we can fit our socket on there at this angle we've got going on. It's a little weird, you know, you're hugging the gas tank a little bit. You're hugging the car, but it's all right. I'm gonna tighten it a little bit by hand since I can spin it. I think that's about as far as it's gonna go. So I'm gonna hold this, try not to move it too much. Get my ratchet back up here. Hopefully. I'm gonna go back to the clamp and push it from this side. There we go. Make sure my ratchet direction's in the right way. It wasn't. It's gonna get it tight enough. It doesn't have to be super tight. Just want to make sure that clamp can't rotate on us and that the hose doesn't rotate. So we're just gonna come back up here and just push on her, and that should be totally fine. So now, that's my hose, not my ratchet. We're gonna come over and get the easy one, and get this back one right here. And again, this one, Just gonna get from the side. I'm gonna hold that so it don't go nowhere. And we're good. So now we've got a hose that doesn't leak. Still not sure. Jury's out on this evap line. I'm not getting any fault codes for it or anything, so I'm just gonna leave it for now, but it's probably a good idea to replace that, so I'm gonna look into doing that in the future. But that's all we've got for here, so let's get back top side. All right guys, so I'm gonna kind of show you where this fuel filter is because it actually took me a little bit to find it. First thing I gotta do, I'm gonna take this off, which is probably gonna end up breaking. Oh, maybe not. I might get lucky. All right, so that rubber piece is off. And once I crawl up in here, I'm gonna show you exactly where it is. This fuel pump on the 97 LandCruiser specifically is way up here. So I am gonna try to point this out to you guys. So you're looking at this from the the driver's side wheel well, where that rubber piece I took off is. So right here, you've got one line, and then on the other side, you've got the other line, which looks like it's gonna be quite a pain to get. But this is where the fuel filter is located. So what you're gonna have to do, or what I'm gonna have to do, is remove these two bolts from each side, and then there's two bolts, or it looks like one bolt potentially. Nope, there's two bolts, which I think are 12 millimeter, that remove this fuel pump, or fuel filter. So this is a kind of a pain in the butt to do, and it's going to be more of a pain in the butt to film. I'm going to film what I can, but essentially I'm going to pull the old one out and then put the new one in. The easiest way I found to get this front one from up top is actually, so if you remove this ignition coil wire right here, move it out of the way, and you get a 3-inch extension with a 17 on it and a flex head ratchet about that angle. What you can do is very difficult to film, and I barely got it, but essentially you can stick your hand in here and you can see the end of the line on, well, you can't see because I can't possibly get this on camera, but you can attach this 17 mil socket essentially to that line, and just enough to break it loose. So I was able to get that side off. As far as the other side, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to get it from that wheel well or from underneath. So this is actually a pretty big pain in the ass. Thanks, Toyota. So the other side of that filter, I'm able to access. It'd probably be easier if you took this off. I'm really lazy, so I'm not gonna take that off. I'm just gonna lay against it. But essentially what we gotta do is I've gotta get up underneath where I took that rubber piece off, fit this wrench in here, and twist it off like this. So push that wrench down, and it's gonna remove that bolt that holds the line in there. And then after that, all I have to do is remove the two mounting brackets. But you wanna make sure you get the lines off first, because if you don't, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to get them off with the mounting bracket loose and it just free floating everywhere. So with that being said, I'm gonna reach up in here and try to loosen this. All right, that actually wasn't too bad. I was able to get in here just with a wrench, like a 17 box end wrench, and I think, no, can't quite get it by hand, but I'm gonna get a ratcheting wrench because it's gonna be a little bit easier on me. So you can hear me loosening this. I probably recommend you should put some kind of catch can underneath where this fuel filter is. I've got oil stains in my garage though, so I'm gonna clean them up using that fuel. Don't recommend it. It's not environmentally friendly. Don't do that. Don't try this at home, kids. Also, I should note I have some cardboard underneath here anyway, so it's not gonna go directly on my garage floor. EPA. success. So that's what the bolt looks like. It's a 17 mil. I need new gloves. But lines are off. Now we're ready to remove the brackets and get this fuel filter out. Jesus. Alright guys, so I've got this like insanely long extension. It's actually two 10-inch extensions or 12-inch extensions. And this is just to get to the mounting bolts to the fuel filter. If you're going to do this from underneath the vehicle, I highly recommend wearing safety glasses because if not, you can get fuel in your eyes, and that would not be great. Done it before, so you know. But so this is the outside one. This is the one closest to the outside of the vehicle. The inside one, I don't know if I can get like this. You guys are gonna see if I can or not. So it looks like you can get it both underneath there with these stupidly long extensions. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Maybe not. Luckily, I was a mechanic in a past life, and I have some really nice swivel sockets that fit on this 12, and I was able to get it with that. You could potentially use a universal socket. That's probably what I would recommend if you're going to do these. Or if you just want to buy a swivel socket set. They're expensive, totally not worth it if you're just a DIYer. But since I was a professional mechanic in a past life, we got a bunch of those types of tools. And our fuel filter is now loose and dumping fuel all over my face and me. So that's cool. So, got the fuel filter out. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, complete pain in the butt. But this might be an original. Oops. Oh, you can see that gas is nasty. It's all brown. But if you look here on this label, this is an original fuel filter. So this might be the only time in its life that has been replaced. This fuel looks really dirty, so this fuel filter is probably not great. And now I understand why people don't want to change these, because it was a pain to get to. But so it's out. I'm gonna get the new one, and we're gonna put it in here. So you can see this is my new filter. This is the filter that I took out of there. So either it was replaced at a Toyota dealership, or somewhere along the lines, a previous owner in the last 30 years replaced it with an OEM fuel filter, which I doubt. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is probably the original filter. So if you get one, I highly recommend you change it. Even though it's a pain in the butt, this will protect your fuel system. This will protect your engine, more importantly, and it'll probably run a lot better because some of the gas that came out of here was super brown. So replace your fuel filter, guys. This is essentially how I got those fuel filter mounting bolts on and off. This is a 12 millimeter swivel socket. So this can pretty much sit in any one direction and spin. Super useful. Again, if you're doing this professionally, you get a set of swivel sockets. You're gonna love them. If you're not, you could also possibly do it with a little universal joint. I'll show you what that is. So you can also use one of these guys to get up in there and get it if you've got one. Usually most mechanic like tool sets come with this little swivel joint. You're not going to be able to put as of extreme as an angle on as you can with these, but it's good enough to at least get those two bolts off, and it's way cheaper than a set of these. These are probably like, I don't remember, probably like $200+ for a full set. Next I'm going to talk about the little crush washers that go on the bolts for the lines, but let me put this back. All right, so let me talk about these little crush washers that go on the bolts. So you can see that these little bolts had crush washers on them, right, from the factory. Well, if you buy an OEM Toyota fuel filter, you get new ones to replace it. So the way these go is these sandwich the lines. So you put the new one on the head of the bolt here, and then you're going to put the bolt through the line, through the fuel line, and then you're going to encapsulate that with the new one and then screw it back on. So basically the line joint goes in between these two washers. So this isn't going to be easy to do, especially with the location that it's in, but I think for the one that's facing the front, you can get from up here, and the one facing the bottom, you can get from the side. So they're not too terrible once you get the fuel pump or fuel filter actually mounted up there. So let's go ahead and get this first one in on the front, because I think that's going to be the harder one to do, and make sure we get both of our crush washers in place. And I'm going to feed it through the line first as soon as I find the line, because, okay, I think I see it. I'm just going to feel around in here. Sometimes you just got to feel around for everything. Alright, so this fuel line in the front is a lot more pliable than the one in the back. The one in the back is kind of like a hard line. So you can actually move this one that sits towards the front of the vehicle around because it's part of a rubber line. So that makes getting an extra crush washer, not extra, but the crush washer after the line on here a little bit easier. I said a little bit easier, I didn't say a lot easier, but you should still be able to fish it in there with one hand and snake that crush washer in there, which I just did, which of course I'm not going to be able to show you. There's just no way to get a camera in here. I will mention a little quick tip for noting the fuel filter direction. It only goes in really one way. Alright, so we got that snugged up. Let me go grab the old fuel filter and I'll kind of give an explanation. So this is the old fuel filter, and the way it sits up in here is it actually sits up like this. So this actually says out, but that's because the lines are reversed. So the output is actually towards the rear of the car and the input is towards the front of the car. And you can tell because when this fuel filter is mounted up, the lines go inside of here. So they're hard lines, and it'll actually sit inside of here, and the same thing on this side. So this line comes from up top and sticks in this little groove, and this line comes from the side and sticks in this little groove. So that avoids it from spinning when you're tightening it. So that way you can always tell which direction that fuel filter goes. But in any case, the fat part, the disc part, goes towards the front of the vehicle. It gets confusing because one's marked in and out, but you have to remember those fuel lines are actually reversed when you're actually going from the tank. So just a quick note on that, I wanted to make a mention of it. So now we're going to get our other new crush washers on here, which I think I actually put an old one on the bolt, so that's going to have to come back out. So I got the front one in from the front. Make sure when you're doing this, you get the old washer, these little crush washers, off of the line itself because they tend to stick on there. So I'm going to put the other one through the back, and the easiest way I found to do this is through this wheel liner right underneath here. So the same way I got it off this exact same way. I'm just going to kind of reach up under there and screw this back in and somehow finagle this little washer back on there on the back side of that line. So we got the fuel filter back in. Super pain in the butt. I wanted to bring a note. Maybe don't tighten the mounting bolts all the way before you do that back line, because that back line's a hard line, so it has to be lined up pretty much perfectly. So what I ended up having to do is loosen those mounting bolts again just to get it tilted just a little bit so that bolt screws in perfectly on the backside. So that's pretty much it for the fuel filter. As you can see, kind of a pain in the butt, but definitely something you should do. That's going to do it for us today, guys. Hope that was a little bit insightful and a little bit exciting, but we got a lot of content coming up soon. I'm a little backed up on videos. You know, that was on purpose. That was intentional. So I have more content to put out to you guys. So thank you all for subscribing. You know, we're at 100 plus subscribers right now. Thanks for all the views. I mean, we're at 5,000 plus on my first video. And if you haven't seen any of those videos, they're going to be pinned down here. Make sure you guys are subscribing. If you aren't subscribed, like the video, leave me some comments so I'll get back to you, and I'll see you next time.